What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the WiseTake NBA DFS Early Look CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013, and I, of course, am from the WiseTake Nation, which you can find on the social media platforms that sit above or directly at WiseTake.com. If you're looking to take your DFS game to the next level, we are a premium DFS content provider as well as a DFS community design. To help make you a better DFS player, go check us out, WiseTake.com. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Please subscribe and notifications bell. Don't miss out on any of the free content we put out, which we do 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And we got baseball around the corner, so there's plenty more to come. What up, Patrick? Always seeing you leaving comments, man. Haven't done these live in a while, but yesterday was the first day we decided to do this live, and I liked it, right? I think the information was a little bit more relevant. Obviously, for basketball, news is everything, so it's important, to close up getting as much news as possible, which is why we do our pre-lock stream, the Wise stream over at WiseTake 45 minutes prior to lock at WiseTake.com. It's important, but you know what? Either way, we can get the brains rolling, we can get the things going with what we have, and put us on the right track. You really need to, part of your NBA process, you got to keep up with news throughout the day. If you wait to the very end of the day, at times, it could be a little overwhelming. If you're just kind of digging in all at once at the end, it can be overwhelming. It's good to kind of keep tabs as you go, which is what we try to do with our Slack chat. We have the NBA injuries channel where throughout the day you can have notifications on for that channel specifically. It'll kind of feed you through some of the different injuries and things like that throughout the day so that you don't feel like you're falling too far behind. I know some people got work and shit, get out of work, and they just come up to tons and tons of news, some stuff they don't even get to. Because once you get the news, you don't have to interpret the news. Make those decisions, right? That's the skill of NBA DFS. Yeah, projections, all these things can make life easier. But even in order to do the projections, unless you have reliable ones like ours, which I do and I use, unless you have reliable ones of someone who's actually there and able to make those necessary changes when news comes out, it could be overwhelming. Get the news, process the news, react to the news. That's NBA DFS in a nutshell. Anyway, hit the like button, leave some comments, do me a favor and share this. Share it as much as you can. The more that we're able to grow, the more we're able to put back into the products, and the more we're able to put back into the community. All right, that being said, we'll get into it. We've got 6 games today, not a big slate. We do have a lot of injury stuff that we already know, and a couple things that we're still waiting for. I've been going game by game with these, and I think that is, I'm still going to touch on the games, but I think it's almost more important that we discuss some of the key injuries, right? At least to start. So I guess we'll do it a little bit differently each show. The game-by-game format the night before was nice because it kind of kept me up to par. But when we're doing them the day of, I think that at this point we can kind of just delve in and see what news we have to this point. It's currently 10 p.m. Eastern. So we got some stuff. So James Harden is questionable. Obviously, anytime James Harden's on a slate, his injury status is going to be extremely relevant, to say the least. If he's playing, expect him to be crazy popular as per usual, but especially because Kyrie Irving, we know, is out, right? We know Kyrie's going to miss some time. So that's pretty important news. LeBron James, we know, is going to be out for some time. He's suffering from a high ankle sprain that I've seen in some places report that it's kind of a rare injury, but he's going to be out for some time. And they're playing New Orleans, a team that has struggled defensively. We've seen Montrezl Harrell's role increase. We've seen Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Kuzma, pretty much every player's role increase, including Mr. Taylor Horton Tucker, who's now $6K on FanDuel. They put a little respect on his name, as they should. See if we can find him here. Mr. Tucker. Maybe it's under Horton. 5.5 on DraftKings. That's what we're looking at. All right. So obviously the Lakers are something to pay attention to. 7:30 start time for New Orleans game. You don't see that all the time. Now notice that Brooklyn-Portland game is late, right? It's late with another one of our injury-riddled games on both sides. Philly and Golden State, both teams have some significant injuries. Steph Curry, we know, is out. for Golden State, which has led to some of the value players who aren't so value anymore get a few more opportunities, some extra minutes. On FanDuel, they've already priced Jordan Poole at $6,500. He's played really well. This is not the greatest spot for point guards when Ben Simmons is around, full disclosure. But they went ahead and priced him up. I'm assuming DraftKings did the same because DraftKings has been on it with the pricing. He's 5'6", so he's still cheap, but he's not, give away cheap. Wiggins is only 6'6". Wiggins is 6'8" on FanDuel. So FanDuel's trying to get with the program a little bit, trying to step their game up. Kelly Oubre, man, has been super disappointing. He's 5'6" on FanDuel, which I'm cool with that price. We expected his usage and all that shit to be good. I know he's dealing with a foot injury he's playing through. The thing about Oubre is he's always kind of been streaky, right, over his career. And we saw at some points earlier this season when his hot streak is on. I mean, he's on it. There was a string of games. Really from the 11th of February. I guess we can go further back where at least every other day he was smashing, and then he had that 3-game stretch or 4-game stretch where he was just smashing every day, right? We haven't seen that a whole ton from him. Now his minutes have been down for the most part, partially due to game script, partially due, I'm sure, to his foot. Back-to-back against Memphis, he only played 28 minutes apiece. But we expect his usage to be high. And after the first game, we're really in both games, even with all these people out, his ownership was pretty low. So I think his ownership will be fairly low. I think. Draymond Green, 7K. Did pretty good in that first game because Memphis not as well the second, but only got 31 minutes. He's 7-6 on DraftKings, so you're getting a little bit of a discount to play him on FanDuel. Now, I know on DraftKings he's a triple-double threat. You get the bonuses for that. But on FanDuel, you get like the blocks and steals thing, right? Worth a little bit more. So I think there's value in him on both sides. But FanDuel, he could come in handy, depending on how loaded or weak the position is. And keep in mind, we're still waiting on, it looks like James Wiseman is expected to play after the COVID protocol, so they won't be as thin there. And same thing with Paschal. So they won't be as thin down there with the bigs, if you want to call it. They don't really have a ton of bigs. Now, Wiseman's a big guy, but they've been terrible against bigs, to be clear, with or without them. Now, the Philly side, we know that they're missing Joel Embiid, which is pretty big, right? We've seen Tobias Harris show some tremendous upside, but we've also seen mediocre Tobias Harris, like against the Knicks. Golden State seems like a fine opponent for the most part, but Draymond is one of the better defenders in the league. One of the better defenders on the team, of course. Juan Toscano-Anderson, real quick, I forgot to touch on him. 24 minutes against Memphis, went nuts, had 3 steals, 2 blocks, but still went nuts. But can't really rely on it, right? Especially with Paschal and Wiseman expected to make their returns, because prior to that 24-minute outburst, the minutes have just been super inconsistent, even with Curry out. Sticking back to the Philly side, Ben Simmons is 8,200. It's a good matchup for him, but you can see in order for him to go for 48 against Milwaukee, he needed to play 45 minutes. Now, granted, the defense he is going to see is a little different today, right? And I think he's a matchup issue for Golden State. Really, even if Steph Curry was there, he seems like he'd be a matchup issue for Golden State. So I'm interested in Ben Simmons. I am. Shake Milton's played well. Kind of throw him in the back of your hat when you're building teams later. He's played well. And then, of course, we need to assess Joel Embiid's direct replacements. Dwight Howard is 5'4". Was in a nut matchup against the Knicks and didn't really deliver. Did well against the Kings, but the game got ugly. He just wasn't required to do a whole ton. The Knicks, though, we expected a little bit more, right? How much is he on the old DraftKings? 6K. This is a really good spot. I know Wiseman's back. I know Paschal's going to be back. Don't really matter. It's still actually a really good spot for Dwight Howard. So take that for what it's worth. I will probably get some at this price, at least on FanDuel, right? Where the blocks and steals get you a little something. Mainly the blocks with Dwight is what we're looking for. But from what I can understand, those are the primary injury slots. Now we also have Lonzo Ball, who is questionable. Something to pay attention to. Where's you at, Lonzo? The screen thing makes it easier for me to pull him up here, so I'm going to do that. Look at Lonzo. Questionable. So he did not play against Denver. Him not playing against Denver led to some of his teammates getting extra time. Looks like it was not Kira Lewis, so it must have been Mr. Nickeil Alexander-Walker. We got 30 minutes. Love playing this dude when he's in the right spot. So if we get an opportunity to do it, if Lonzo Ball is out, I will play Nickeil Alexander-Walker. For sure. Now, I do think he's a little more shot aggressive than Lonzo, so I guess you could argue that it could take away a little something. I don't know. Oh man, I forgot about the LeBron shit, right? Well, we talked briefly about it. Real quick, I'll say this: with LeBron out, I do like Dennis Schroeder a lot. Point guards have just gone off against New Orleans. We saw Dame have that. I'm not comparing Schroeder to Dame, okay? But we saw Dame and others just really exploit them. With Lonzo Ball in, I don't think it's going to get much better with Lonzo Ball out. So even though Schroeder, in particular, has been a little disappointing since LeBron's been out, right? I'm more than willing to go back to him, even at these prices. What is he? 6.6 on DraftKings? Yeah, hell yeah, and 7K on FanDuel. In tournaments, right? In tournaments. And in cash games, I don't know if he's going to project well enough for us to justify that. But in tournaments, I will definitely play some Dennis Schroeder. Kyle Kuzma and Ingram, man, old teammates, old buddies, you know. Kuzma 6'5" on FanDuel. They moved him over to small forward, which is probably where he should be at the moment. That's where he's playing at the moment. So Kuzma is 6'8" on DraftKings. I'll get some exposure to him. We talked about Taylor Horton-Tucker. His price has now come up, though. And then Montrezl, man. I know Steven Adams is a big dude down there, but Montrezl's the Laker that's been playing really well with LeBron out. And the minutes have looked really good. They've needed his scoring. And Adams or not, this team has been getting slaughtered by bigs. Now, it does look like Marc Gasol could come back. If it's a conditioning issue, which it sounds like it's a conditioning issue, I'm not so sure. He'll be back right away. You know what I mean? What's up, Craig? Good to see Craig. Craig Allen in the chat says, belated congrats on the birth of your child. I have 3, with 2 almost in college. Parenting, I have found to be the most gratifying experience in life. You know what, Greg? I appreciate it. And you're absolutely right, man. It's funny. Like, obviously, I continue to work hard as I can. Started a second business with card breaking. So trying to work really hard, but it does make it more difficult. Like, the motivation is still there. It changes, though, right? Like, when you don't have kids, you're looking at it like, man, I just want to be successful. I want to be rich. I want to be able to do what I want to do on vacation. The minute you have a child, it changes to, shit, man, I got to make sure she got money for education. I got to make sure she's got money for this. I got to make sure if something happened to me, she's set. So it's like the motivations are still there. That it's changed a little bit. And it does make things a little more difficult. Like, you know, trying to work. Normally I come into the office and work. And I don't really want to be in the office. I'd rather be out, you know, with the wife and the baby. You know, so I can, at least while I'm working, I can, you know, step in and help when I can. So I could just watch the bonding going on. But I appreciate it, Craig. It's been an awesome experience so far. It's been, you know, people tell you about it and they tell you it does these things, but until you experience it, it's really hard to grasp. But I appreciate you, bro. And shout out to you for having 3 kids, because I could imagine the juggling that must go on for every parent that has multiple kids. But yeah, so yeah, the Lakers are the other spot. The Lakers are the ones I like personally for tournaments. I don't like the fact that they're going to be one of the first games. They're not the first game, but they're one of the first games. That leaves me a little weary. A little bit. But needless to say, we have a lot of injury to take it. Now, if you notice, the scores have been ridiculously high lately. Right? Like 400 is not good enough on FanDuel lately. Good enough to cash maybe, but not good enough to win. And it's because a lot of chalk's gone off. And I know, like, you know, that's it. We've had a lot of chalk, so it's not just the chalk going off. You still have to pick the right chalk. But if you make that mistake, I mean, Drew Holiday on FanDuel last night was obviously the right chalk. You could have gotten away from not playing Middleton. There were plenty of guys. But Holiday, right, he was 50% on. So if you had less than 50%, you had a disadvantage. Because he didn't just go off. Like, he put up crazy. I mean, it was almost 10x, I think, or some shit. 9x, 8x, whatever. It was ridiculous, right? So that's something to keep an eye on. Back to the slate. I do like Zion. I like Ingram, but I also like Zion, especially if Gasol is out or like super limited. As good as Montrezl is offensively, he's kind of undersized for a big. Markieff Morris matched up on Zion doesn't sound so promising. So I do like Zion at 8,600. I like this game in general. But you know me, I always like the late games. But the Harden news is pretty big, man. I mean, Harden's not, we might not even know. I think he's going to play just because Harden doesn't miss very many games, so I think he will. But if he does, man, Brooklyn is a completely different team. We're talking about a team that has James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Durant. But if you take those three guys off, they don't got LeVert no more, right? Dinwiddie's been out for long time now. So, it would open up some value for sure. Definitely open up some value. But I'd be reluctant to stick with too many of the veterans. I'd be looking to play the younger guys like Tyler Johnson, Nicholas Claxton, some of these young guys, and kind of prepare myself for a potential blowout. Chris Chiozza. So we would get a lot of value if that happened. But we may not even know until after some of the first games already tipped off. That's interesting. The Knicks are a little bit of the opposite situation. The matchup is phenomenal, right? They're playing Washington. So the matchup part, we got. The issue is they're getting a little bit healthier, which is not an issue as a Knicks fan that I'm glad to hear. But for DFS purposes, we've got guys that are priced for these players to be out. And now the prices have risen, right? Because they were playing well. They were getting boosts. Now they're expensive, like Julius Randle, for instance. Who's been expensive, let's be honest. But he's $10K now on FanDuel. 9.9 on DraftKings. Matchup is phenomenal. You could certainly smash in tournaments, no doubt. But at the same time, we now have Derrick Rose expected to come back in some capacity. Right? I know he's available. Elfrid Payton is still questionable, so he could miss. But Rose is a high usage player. Now I don't think Rose would play a ton of minutes. Number one, he's not supposed to be. I know Thibodeau don't care about that, and he wants Rose to be the guy. He loves Rose. He loves his guys. He likes guys that play hard and all that shit. But Rose, he did have a press conference, talked about COVID, said him and his whole family caught it, and he said it was worse than the flu. All these different things he had to say. Pretty interesting interview, but needless to say, I would imagine he gets eased in. But what does that mean with Tom Thibodeau? Not exactly sure. So maybe because of the injuries we have, and I keep in mind Quickly is also Quickly is probable. But needless to say, I am interested. Right? If Elf is out, I think we could still look at Quickly because I don't think Rose is going to play a ton, but it's going to hurt some upside. Alec Burks, who's coming off of a couple really good games, all that shit. You know what I mean? RJ Barrett's price has come back up because his minutes have been more solidified. They've been more solidified because all these players have been out. When Rose got here, he was the one that saw the biggest hit. Mitchell Robinson is probable, or he's available. He's available. Looks like in his first game back, against the Sixers, he tweaked his ankle. But looks like he's back. That's going to hurt Nerlens Noel's upside. It's going to make things weird with Mr. Taj Gibson. Right? So things to sort out. I think Randall's probably still fine. The matchup is just too good. Matchup for the Washington side, not as great. Knicks do play at a slower pace. They try to emphasize defense. Diego, what's happening, bro? Says, what's up, CK? Hope things are well. Glad to join you on the early live stream. Work's been crazy. I can imagine, man. I know this whole Corona thing's been crazy. It's been crazy for us here. It's been crazy everywhere. So us for here meaning WiseTake, I know there were a lot of people that were impacted and couldn't play DFS any longer. And, we lost a lot of members just from people just not being able to afford things, not being able to do things. So, I hope everybody's finding a way to bounce back on their feet and, get through these tough times. Tough people, as they say, the cliche, tough people last, tough times don't, all that. No, I didn't say it as smoothly, but it was, to say it is one thing, to say it like that, I feel like it was one of my favorite expressions, that, and excuses are like assholes. Everyone's got one, they all stink. So I try not to, they're my favorites, but I say them a lot. So I try not to say them too much. Just saying. But glad to see you, Diego, man. Good to see you, man. Keep working hard. Chalupas and chicken. What's cracking with the WiseTake fam, man? What's popping, CK? Not much, man. Just, hanging in there. We've had some members wake up. I know MG's had some success. There's a few guys that have, there's escaping me, but we've had a lot of guys pop off. Paulie's had a lot of success recently. It's at that point now. It's like, if we don't have a takedown in a week, we start to feel like we're getting cold. And it's GPP life. Let's be real. It's not supposed to be like that, but it's been like that. So we've been very lucky, very blessed. I've switched over to FanDuel, chasing these donkeys. Donkeys. And somebody in the comments once asked me what's a donkey. We refer to these massive tournaments like FanDuel with 150,000 people. We call those donkeys because you're kind of a donkey for playing it. It doesn't mean I'm not playing it. I'm playing it because I want that 100K. But that's the old reference, to be clear. But yeah, so this Knicks game's interesting, but the Knicks side is a little more interesting. Now, I do think we could see lower ownership for Beal and Westbrook simply because I think people are waiting for Harden status. Or do we think that people are going to go the other way with that and say, like, I don't want to wait for the Harden news. I've got Westbrook and Beal here. I think they'll wait for Harden. But anyway, I think the only game, there's 2 games we haven't really touched on, is Denver, Orlando, Phoenix, and Miami. I don't have too much to say. Dragic could be coming back. These games are kind of just straight up. I think that they'll have lower ownership than some of the other games. Matchup pace part of the reason, but also because they're not dealing with as many injuries, right? These teams are fairly healthy. As healthy as they've been, right? Looks like Terrence Ross is questionable. We'll have to see his status. A lot of trade talk surrounding Orlando, though, right? It's rumors, but talking about Aaron Gordon in the Celtics, Fournier in the Celtics, talking about a few different things. So these games are fine. I'm not going to get into them too much. We'll do our research and I'll write my article. Looks like Michael Carter Williams is back and all that good shit. So I appreciate you hanging out with us. Hopefully, had a good little time chilling with old CK here. Hit the like button on your way out if you haven't already. Please share the show, guys. It's the best thing you could do for us is, share and spread it, man. We're trying to do these, trying to build shit up. At one time we were, on top of the world in the DFS industry, but, had some tough times before COVID, had some tough times during COVID and all that. And, we're trying to bounce back like everybody else. So I appreciate y'all. Hit the like button, leave some comments, do some dirties tonight. And if you guys do pop, if somebody pops, gets a good screenshot, man, don't be shy about it. Hit me up. Hit up the WiseTake Twitter and hit me up. CK_013, Wise_take. And we'll pimp you out a little bit, man. We like to see our people. We like to see the nation do well. That's what we're here for. That being said, hopefully I'll catch some of y'all. Most of y'all, hopefully I'll catch for the NBA pre-log live stream at WiseTake.com. And, I'll have my article out shortly. Projections, I'm going to do the projections right after this show, so I'll get them posted soon. For myself, the entire WiseTake Nation, as always, good luck.